Hello everyone, welcome back. So it's time for a new update. It's been a very difficult period, not difficult, but difficult to define, as in like how just like to title it, because there's been so many things going on at the same time, but obviously everything is just going in one direction and one direction only. It's something that I was actually mentioning in the previous update, something that actually I started talking about actually more than 2 years, if not almost now 3 years ago, and it was about surrendering. But I am not going to call the spirit surrender, although this could be a fitting title as well, but I would say it's fast forward non-linearly. Because this is how it felt, this is how things have unfolded. Things that may not make sense now, but they will make sense tomorrow, or things like that. But then they connect, and everything, as I said, just moves in one direction and one direction only. I will start by trying to explain, continue an explanation actually from the previous video, which is not an Ascension update video. Something that I think ticked off the wrong way a few of you, because I was mentioning the word thinking, and it's like, I know that people on the spiritual path are very sensitive to thinking. I do not want to offend anyone, but I know all the stories about the heart, the whatever, and I just want to go back to explain this whole heart thinking situation, because this has to do with what is happening to me, or what has happened to me in this past 3 months or something like that time period. As I was saying in the previous video, you have something that we're moving into as the energy accretes. Things will become more complex. If this is not very clear, as I said, as I was giving you the example last time with electricity, think of all the other concepts and ideas that have evolved over time, and how other things in our lives that now look very different than when they, let's say, appeared in this, let's say, hologram long time ago. And this should give you an idea of what it means to actually have an idea that evolves over time, and it's better understood, and actually it's being embodied, and it evolves, and it becomes the most that it can be. But for this it needs energy. It's like, for instance, like a phone. I think I gave this example as well. So imagine like an analog phone, and look at what we have right now, is a smartphone. So that already, the analog is just, it's a completely different system, how things work, whereas the smartphone is basically science fiction. I mean, it would have been science fiction even, I don't know, a few decades ago. Although there are people that were thinking about the complexity of certain things that could appear in our lives for a long time ago. But of course, these are small circles. These are, scientists, inventors, explorers, etc., etc. So a smartphone, in order to operate, first of all, it's like, I don't know if you've noticed, but not just smartphone, but even computers, even a lot of things now, in order for the system to run better and faster, it needs more energy, needs more power. The processor of a computer or a phone is becoming more powerful with each generation. So it's the same with us. In order for that thing to be able to work properly and actually express and use all those functions that for example, the smartphone has, or the computer, because in the end, actually, a smartphone is also a computer. So for more complex things, we need more energy, more power, and those things become normal. They're not anymore like ooh, abstract, although everything is abstract either way. But as we get used to it, as we accustom ourselves, as the energy grows with that idea becomes something that we already integrate, and at some point it's becoming like any other thing that we, I don't know, automatically we perceive as like, it's that, okay, whatever. So it's something that we integrate in our world, our language of like interactions and things that we do, objects that we have in our reality, and things that we think possible. So they become something normal. So that's what I'm trying to explain to you. As the energy will grow, is growing, a lot of new things that right now seem absolutely impossible and from somewhere else at the moment they're just like, what is that? It's like abstractions, things that cannot be accessed fully right now. And I will actually have to go into a little bit more in depth about this, but this I will actually connect it with another thing from one of the topics that I want to talk about in this update. But in regards to me, and sorry, I haven't finished my explanation. So the thinking, because there's nothing else but mind, you have to understand that there's source, that there is this consciousness, this field, this potential, this thing. It's thinking. So we are thoughts of source, and the heart, if you want, because it's not something localized, although this is inside of design, it might seem that, oh, there's a heart, although this is also a concept, but the heart is actually a property or an attribute, a characteristic of source. So in a design, like us being whatever, we have the concept of a heart. We have actually even a physical heart. And as we actually grow our energy, this will become also more alive. And I explained to you this, in the end, has nothing to do with what people think as like feelings and whatever. It's beyond that. It's something that I explain, it's like a fire, it's like a flame that starts to express within this construct. What we understand are the being, which has many layers, many subtle structures. So it will start to manifest as a flame or whatever, but then it means something specific, and it has a certain quality. But in the end, the heart, if you want, it's just a property, an attribute of source. We give it physicality because, well, that's what we could perceive with our minds at a certain level of energy, and certain teachings were given so that could be integrated and understood at a certain level of energy. But as the energy grows and the awareness evolves, expands, this transforms, and then you get closer and closer to the actual truth, what the heart is, or what actually living from the heart means. It becomes like that thing starts to express in you, and you become more alive. And it's like the thinking and the heart, they just merge, and then they just you actually have this like inseparable thing that runs you basically, and you download source, or the source expresses through you, like one in the end. So that's what the merging of the feminine and the masculine actually is about in the end, so that we can express both things in ourselves. But even about this, I'm going to talk about it, I think, later, because this also is something that happens to me. So it's about, so abstract, bear in mind, there's a lot of abstract things that are going to change our reality as we change ourselves. And this should not, you should not fear this kind of things. Complex doesn't necessarily mean complicated. It's just the next level of understanding, and for that one must actually rise above what one thinks that reality is. So it's like, if I think that reality is a small box that has this rule, and I don't know, it works like this, and this, I can't see the next level. When I open myself and say, okay, there's got to be more than this, then yes, there will be more than this, because you allow yourself to source to open inside you, or to direct you to find the information, the experiences that will show you, will confirm that there is more, and things actually look a little bit different than you thought. And that's why I said, bear in mind, you have to be flexible. Your mind has to be flexible and not be attached to a lot of dogmas. As in, like, be grateful that you encounter those things, that you learn from those things, but as the energy will grow, you'll see that there are certain things that don't work the same, and you'll say, why? Because as I said, every level has a certain expression of things, and also the truth looks the ultimate universal truth looks very different at different levels of energy. So that's why be open for that as well. That's why it's very hard for me to sometimes, and that's why I said it's hard. I know when I'm talking to you about this kind of ideas, I know that most of the time I'm not really understood, but I have to do it either way. That's why I said come back to these videos whenever you want, how many times you want, because the mind here, well, most minds at a certain level, that are a certain level of energy, have a hard time of actually, it's like learning really something completely new that you have no point of reference. So therefore it's so abstract that that idea, it's not really available within you. And you hear the concept, but that concept does say nothing. And that's normal. This is how everything starts. It's like, but just be open to that. And in time, as the energy accretes, your experience, your awareness grows, expands, you'll start to actually have that concept start to actually you embody that. So therefore, you have the full understanding. So now we're coming back to my experience, and my experience is that every day, basically, I'm moving forward with this abstraction. This is a process that it has never stopped. And I'm shown things, my mind is shifting every day, and to see all sorts of things that it's, as I said, if I say some things, they won't really make sense because they're just abstract things, but they make sense to me, and at a certain level of energy. So that's why it's so frustrating to talk about certain things. But what I can say is that because my mind is shifting so fast and actually is moving toward all this abstraction, my mind now incorporates things that I never even thought that I would learn about. I mean, be interested in this reality. And that's why, as I was, after the process, my mind shifted toward coding, and because I was seeing the universal language and everything, and I was like, whoa, and this is a reality that I live inside all the time. This has never changed. It's something present that's every day, every moment with me, and that's why it's very hard for me to communicate certain things, because even if I don't have to say much, or just say things like you have to elevate your thinking, higher thoughts. Is like the thinking is such a bad word, I guess, in the spiritual community or whatever, because it's like people reject that part as being a way to move forward in energy, and I have to find a way to bypass someone's own attachment to certain dogmas, certain teachings, certain preferences, and deliver something that it's true, but bypasses all that. That's very hard. But then again, that's what I'm shown. It's beyond even what I liked, what I preferred. It's beyond all of that. And I guess this was, how should I say, this happened inside me also because I always had this need of understanding things the way they are. I'm not interested in necessarily having an opinion about something, just have an opinion about something. I just wanted to know what that thing is, so then from knowing that, I can, I don't know, do something about it, do whatever. So I guess that's why it was easier source to express to me certain things, because I'm really interested in the truth. I'm not interested in my truth or someone else's truth. I'm just interested in the truth. And it's something that you start to express as you clean yourself. Now we go back again to cleaning. But, sorry, going back to the abstraction process that is happening. Yes, it's something that I experience every day. And my interests are very, very abstract, but they connect with the things that I learned from the past, although I cannot say that in the past I was not actually working with abstraction, because I did, because I come from the design world, architecture, design, art, which is, yes, operates with a lot of concept, but also operates with a lot of technical things. And now for me, it's just like moving on to the next level. So, yeah, this is something very important, and this is affecting how I see things, my perception of everything, and what's to come. Another thing in regards to this abstraction and things, and how certain people actually expect to be taught, because, as I said, when you go to, like, I don't know, say you want to learn something about, I don't know, something, in this case, on this path, you want more information about certain ideas, and you look for confirmation, and you feel more comfortable when you see somebody goes through the same thing, or reinforces something that you already know. This can be a good thing, but at the same time also not necessarily, as in, like, because if you're open and your mind is like, okay, no matter what, I just want to understand the truth. And even if you hear something that doesn't sit well with you, but you feel there is truth in that, even if it does not really, it is not part of your system, is like what you understand is like how things should work, or what you think you know. But if you're open and you can sense the truth in those things, even if it's hard to accept in the beginning, just give it time, and let life, let source show you through experience, through energy accretion, the truth. As in, like, okay, if this is true, then show me how is that possible. So that's why I said it's so important to be open. Also, in regards to this abstraction, this things that are changing my mind, my perception all the time, in regards now to the language, is the fact that I have periods of time when I moved out of this reality, well, my mind at least, and I'm starting to see things that, you know, how in our world, in this reality, the writing is done two-dimensionally, right? So this is how it almost feels like here, the words, how they sound and how everything feels like. Actually, it's not even just the words, but everything, because of how the words are expressed, they feel flat. All our experiences feel flat. The moment when we reach another level, everything has like depth. It's like mathematically, I would say, here we have x, y, but beyond that is x, y, z. So then you have the 3 coordinates, and then they become, you see the volume of a word, of a sound, of something. So that's how actually is beyond that. So that's why a lot of things are very hard to explain with the tools that we have right now, unless someone actually decides like, okay, clean themselves and start to have access to that level of like, so that's how it feels, that's how it looks like. If you don't have that, it's very hard to understand. But it's good if you're at the beginning, at the level of like, I want to understand, I want to work toward that understanding. It's great to have an open mind and see how that might look like from another level. Because if you expect it to be like how you were taught, then you're going to be very disappointed, and you're going to think that, I know. But that was also my surprise. Thinking, it's like, okay, fine. And then you're given the experience, and then it's like, wow. So that's huge. It's really hard and complicated to put into words. And sometimes art and those other things that can actually help one to understand, because in the end, that's the role of art, architecture, design, all those things, is to trigger higher awareness. And that's that's one of the things that most people don't understand, is like, what's art for here? Well, for that. Because art, in the end, in all its forms, they're abstraction. There's ideas, concepts expressed, they are given a shape. And when experienced fully, then you get the full meaning behind it and a message, and you get it completely. Most of the time, art is misunderstood. Of course, there's art made from a certain level of energy and experience. So there's also, as I said, the quality of art and design is in direct proportion with someone's level of energy, awareness, and personal development, inside. And so for me, this is something that it's a constant reality, and that's why I said it's like I could not say something different than what is happening to me. Is like, because that's what I'm being revealed, is like being showed, and directly. It's not just something that I read. I don't talk about from books now anymore. I might make a reference about certain ideas or concepts to, as I said, to find the easier transition to introduce other things. But what I'm talking in my videos is really direct experience, and so that's why it's really, really important to understand that the future means that you will have a different mind if you are meant to actually reach that reality, transforming this body as well. Not necessarily the classical path, which is like leave this body behind and then take another one or whatever to express yourself in another reality. But if you're meant to do this kind of thing, understand that this is going to happen eventually. Of course, not everyone is going in the same direction, and that's fine. As I said many times, it's something that also cannot be faked. It's every choice that we make in every moment creates that path, which, as I said, you cannot fake that. It's something that it forms itself, crystallizes, and this will take you where your choices wanted you to go. In regards to what I was saying also in the previous update about surrendering, this is something that obviously continues, and funny thing, well, not a funny thing, but it happened. My little accident that I talked about in the previous update as well. Actually, this was one of those things one of those events that, well, what happened back then, I cannot go into a lot of details about this, but there was a clearing, there was a evacuation of sort, and again, I start to function. After that, I start to function again more differently than before, and that's why I said the process of abstraction and what's going on in my head and all these things continue and go to the next level, because there's all sorts of modification taking place, normal or less normal, weird, scary, that happen in me, around me, and they trigger all these things so that I can really have access to a higher understanding. But then again, this also is this cannot happen if I don't do the work. So as I continue to do the work and actually whether I like it or not, look inside myself, and every time I have a little more energy, as I accrete a little bit more energy, again I go deeper into those deeper level of those things that haven't fully healed. It's not that like I haven't cleared all this, is because I have cleared all these years, but as I said, that lower energy, at lower level of energy, things are very compacted, and in order to get rid of them, you need a lot of energy so they can just basically expand. So then you just remove all these things and they just dissipate and dissolve. But for that, you need a lot of energy, you need to persist, you need to do all these things that I talked about before. So in regards to, as I was, well, this also is in regards to me surrendering, the process of surrendering, as I like to get rid of all these things that basically I need to get rid of, so the full light can express itself. Of course, now I express more light, but I also like to express my full light and my full potential. So it's a process. As I was explaining, when you start to clean yourself, don't expect that things will work like from I clean a little bit, I talk about certain whatever problem, and that's it, it's gone. Yes, there's certain aspects that will disappear, and it's great, you're going to shift a little bit, good job, but continue, because that's not done. Because in my case, for instance, the situation with, well, you'll find that also in the books, but it's like from me wanting to die, I want to die, which I did, to I want to live, I want to find a reason to live, I want to wake up excited about life. Well, I still work with that, but it's been years. It's not just like, whoa, a week, a month, a year, whatever. No, it's been years, because it hasn't been just me trying to find the motivation to live, to continue the journey, to do what I need to do to fulfill the purpose that I have. It's more than just that. All these things, they were actually not because I was a bad person and I wanted to die or whatever. No. These things were necessary things, were the steps that I had to follow through on my journey to get where I am now and to get whatever I'm supposed to get further. So there are things that I couldn't have escaped those things. So because previous to that event, let's say previous to death, I had a different mind. Then when I came back, well, it happened a few times, the mind started to shift, to change through all these experiences that whatever happened, and they still happen, and there's different levels of that thing that are continue to shift my mind, this kind of tortures that I was explaining in other videos as well. There are, how should I say, when we are born into this reality, we have placed on ourselves certain limitations, so we can learn from those things. It's not just because we're bad people or whatever, it's because you need the contrast, you need certain things to be in place. So the mind, not the heart here, because it's, well, the heart, it's, as I said, it's an attribute, it's a property of the mind, not the mind as in the brain, but what it means as consciousness. So the consciousness, if it's more familiar and more comfortable for you, needs to shift to see certain things and or learn from certain situation, and it cannot learn unless it has a certain environment, certain setting. Actually, from another level, they are geometrical patterns, and we actually go through them or experience them as something like this, life or whatever, an experience. So those things are put in place, and I had many of those things in my life, and I still have many of those things in my life. But because of those things, and pushing through and following through and surrendering and moving forward with my path, with my purpose or whatever, I am shifting. First of all, my mind continually shifts, and I am changed, and I'm becoming what I'm supposed to become, as my nature is, as like also my full potential. But also it's something that unfolds in time, which actually is a accretion of energy. That's what time is, accretion of energy. So yes, the tortures, the things, those things continue. They haven't stopped, but I guess I deal with them. I'm much more calmer with them. I mean, not because I could actually be aggressive with them, but isn't like how I deal inside with those things. It's very different because they activate certain things in me. I can't talk about this. It goes into the category of abilities, and I don't want to talk about abilities because that's not safe. Yes, I'm shown things. I'm shown things that are to come. I'm not shown certain things that I'm not supposed to know until I have evolved to the certain point where I can experience that with the right mind. So that's how it goes. It's not something that everything is shown at once. No, sometimes it can be really abstract things from the absolute level, and then I'm shown something from over here, and then I'm shown something from over there, and the next day something from here. So it's varied. That's what I could actually explain. This process of me surrendering to this, not just clearing, but the transformation, because it's a process of transformation and reorganizing, restructure, regrowing, restructuring my awareness. And so those limitations that you might have placed in life upon you, those are the things that will actually help you grow the most. And so don't discard those things, even if they're unpleasant and you don't want to deal with them. No one wants to. But it's the thing that will help us move out of here if we actually pay attention and we don't run away from them. So that's why I said it's like, yes, you will encounter things, things that will be absolutely horrendous, horrible, ugly. And in every moment, ask yourself, what can I learn from this, and how can I be better? What am I supposed to do now? Don't run away. It's not going to be easy, but in time, after a while, you will see that, so that changed me, that shaped me, that helped me to actually, expand in this way or that way or whatever. So it's very, very valuable. In regards to what people understand or what expect as a higher reality to express, or what it means, is like people automatically will go to like, so we're going to communicate telepathically, all these little, neat whatever features that already are expressed in this reality by some of us, and with a little bit of experience and training, they can be, even stronger. But that's not it. Actually, in a higher reality, things work they're expressed, first of all, in a different way. There's different way to do things and to express everything, and that's what we go to, the like above this level. And as I said, it's a level of abstraction that it's hard to understand as long as you experience this flat reality. As you move out of it, everything starts to become alive. It has like a volume around it, and it's a thing. The words, the music, sound, that you'll see things, and they work in different ways. So it's not necessarily about telepathy, or some people expect that the higher reality is just, oh, from now on you're going to be like vegetables. That's another thing in regards to the heart, by the way. Sorry, in that. Most people on this path expect to be like, oh, surrender, I'm not going to do anything, I'm going to be nothing, I'm one with the source. Well, I explained also in a blog post and also in a video, as I said, being one means you're alone at an absolute level, because I experienced that. You see yourself as everything. I saw that, I felt that, I know how that feels. I cannot sustain that this level of energy, because that also is depressing. So I feel alone. It is very weird. But as this flame, which I already experienced, starts to like grow, this actually the heart, which is, as I said, it's expresses like a flame. It's a property, a characteristic, an attribute of source. And as this thing starts to express and is active continuously, you start to feel that it generates like a field, a connection with all the others, and it makes the reality more fluid. And then that's why I say you feel more connected. But this is also another level of energy. It's not an absolute level of energy. And that's why I say I'm one with everything. But then you're not really that. That's not the level. But you feel like you do not feel that separation as you would feel like here. So also, as I said, the mind will work in different ways. People will do different things. That doesn't mean we won't have technology, but the technology that's at another, because technology science equals actually magic, but is expressed in different ways. It's also a direct mirroring or reflection of the level of awareness of that consciousness, like the collective consciousness, and we never, technology and things like that, they're not a bad thing. They become a bad thing when the awareness, the consciousness is trapped. It's at a really low level, and that already becomes the technology and science and all these things become a force for destruction. So this comes, we return again to that thing that we have to do, which most people don't want to, which is cleaning. Because only when we do that and we really go within, we will see what we need to get rid of and to make space, so that we let the light shine, express new things, new ideas, new ways of being, because this is what, as I said previously, moves us forward into other realities. So other realities, higher realities, they are not some kind of like, the beings experiencing those realities are not some vegetables that are like, whatever, not thinking, not doing anything in the sense. No, the interactions, the communications between them, between things, whatever, it's much more refined. It's of a different nature. Just it's different things, different ways. So that's what I said. It's another language. It's another way of existing. So those things are not available, or not even, you can't even have that thought. It's like, what would that be like if you're not open yourself to think, okay, I really want to just move forward. And moving forward, it's like to see what's beyond this little box. And as you realize that once you break the little box, you go into a bigger box, and then you have to break the other box, and so on and so forth, until you reach a level where like you understand, oh wow, so this is how actually it is. Like there's a lot of things, but there's also universal truth that are always valid and never changing. But then again, because we cannot escape the paradox. Okay, so this is like this at this level, and this is how it is like that level. And yes, and then you understand that ascending or descending in energy means different type of realities with different type of rules, expressions, and forms and languages and things like that. So I think this is the thing that I will leave you with. I mean, to take from this update, although sorry if it's a little bit all over the place, but it's, for me, I repeat myself and I hate that, it's about putting in place this new awareness, and that's what's happening to me and what has been happening for a very long time, and it's happening also to other people, but at different, I mean, at whatever pace everyone is able to and allows for that transformation, because it's not something that it's forced on you. As I said, most people will go on the default mode, and there's others that might go a little more accelerated, and there's even less people that go a little bit higher, even less, even much less at even higher levels, and top levels, it's just like nothing, 1, 2, 3 people, something like that. So I'm just moving forward. It's not always easy, but it's been a good and before I actually conclude the video, obviously you've noticed what's going on with the weather, so that's going to continue, as I said many times. I remember when I actually was shown about this situation, and it was 2017. So yeah, whenever we have this weird storms and things, it's not, there's some other forces also at work, but already the bigger forces, the higher forces have, how should I say, overwritten all of these things. And at the beginning of the year, as I said, there was this new timeline that, I've accessed this new timeline. Now, actually, there's another timeline that I'm accessing. It's an even lighter, as in like it has more light, more things are available than they were even at the beginning of the year. And yes, of course, the energy made possible, as I said, if we make certain choices, as the energy grows, it helps us shift on other timelines that have better outcomes. So this is something that I also not just felt, I experienced, and it felt like a death. I woke up, felt very weird. It was loss of time, loss of a lot of things, and then I saw again things working differently. I was like, oh, okay, fine, moving on. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of things that I cannot talk about. There's a lot of things. There's things that I might put also in the books later on in the next ones. But yeah, basically, as I said in the beginning, this is just fast forward, non-linearly. So that's how it's been. I hope this was interesting. See you next time. Ciao. Those things is like, as I said, they come in increments and steps, and certain vessels bring in a certain piece of the puzzle.